to Camp Okayist. Yes, I am your host, Sean Ritter. Camp Okayist, of course, brought to you by X2 Power. Powered by X2 Power, I should say. You can find X2 Power lithium battery technology at your favorite Batteries Plus stores. We are joined this week by a man that it's been a long time coming because Matt is another one of the Okayist podcast network hosts and just an overall swell guy. And he's a part of the Okayist Fisher podcast. He's a turkey call maker, a musky addict. I don't know what other words to describe with Matt Streim. But Matt's joining us. By the way, I'm going to crack open, since it's traditional, we have a beverage at camp. This is the Great Divide Brewing Company out of Denver, Colorado. Their Imperial Stout, the Yeti, which I think is just very fitting, especially after the conversation with Levi and the all the Western hunting stuff a couple of weeks ago. If you missed that conversation, pretty funny episode. That is up for you on the channel. Yes, we are a live YouTube stream. You can follow us on there. You can also follow us on socials. Lots of different ways for you to take part in all of the Camp Okayist stuff. Again, it is at Camp Okayist on the socials. You want to follow us. Before we roll into things, I think we should probably bring up as well, as part of the Okayist podcast network, Okayist Hunter kind of being we'll call it the start, the beginning, the whatever, hosting their Foam Fest coming up here August 31st, the Horkhart Marsh Archers. This is a really great event. I know, Matt, you've been there every single time. Was it 2 years? This would be is this the third annual this year?
It's the third year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So if you want to take part, come on out. There's going to be all kinds of chances to win some cool prizes and a bear archery throwing and some bows. Going to be an awesome time. So if you're in and around Wisconsin, I don't know if you're Minnesota, Iowa, whatever you want to travel, this is going to be a really cool event. You can find out all the info. It's up there, okayisthunter.com. But Foam Fest is going to be a pretty cool event coming up here very, very soon. But just really quickly, Matt, for anyone that doesn't know you, as we're jumping into Cap, go ahead and introduce yourself, a little about you, a little about your outdoor background and all this and that.
Yeah, I'm Matt Streim, as you introduced. I am the co-host of the Okayist Fisher podcast. I met up with those guys on social media. Me and Greg started talking first. Just started talking. He followed my turkey call business page and became really good friends, started the podcast. Turns out I knew Eric from like 12 years ago. I was sat at the same table at a wedding as him. I didn't realize it was him at the time, but yeah, small world stuff. Yeah, I do a little bit of everything. Big musky guy, big turkey hunter, big hunter in general. Anything outdoors. That's what's up with me.
I love it. We got a chance to get out and do some salmon fishing on Greg's boat last summer, which that video will be coming out very, very soon. I'm still waiting for a couple of clips of stuff from Greg to kind of finish things up, but that's going to be on my personal YouTube channel. You're going to be able to see us three goofballs going out and catching salmon on Lake Michigan, which is way different than the stuff that I typically do in, the bass fishing stuff and whatever. But, the one thing I wanted to talk about this week, because I thought it was really interesting and it fits along the theme of a lot of just us being normal people and being okay and wanting to explore things in nature. You recently went on this really awesome epic trip out west, and I had no clue you were doing this until suddenly it showed up on social. I'm like, holy crap. What the hell's Matt doing? This is awesome. Like, what was going on here? That was Wyoming, right?
Montana. We were actually in Missoula.
Okay.
Yep. It's kind of a convoluted story, but I got to set a little back cursor. I wasn't going to go on this trip to begin with. My hunt for this fall in Montana, as of before that trip, was kind of not happening. And then until recent events, I just found out I can't give my tag back. So I'll be going out to Montana again to go do some elk and mule deer hunting. But we went on this trip as a family trip. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law live out there, and spent some time with them, did some touristy stuff, the hot springs, and brother-in-law really wanted to go do a float trip on the Beartooth River. And I was excited because I wanted to do it too. So that's kind of one day of our adventure was there.
That's crazy. I didn't know that you had like in-laws out there and like, I'm sorry. If I had in-laws in Montana, I would be sucking on that resource all the time, quite frankly. I'd be visiting because I want to see them, but it's an added bonus. Like when my brother-in-laws both live in New Orleans, it was an added bonus that they were in New Orleans. Fantastic city. Went to visit as much as I could.
Yeah, it's the plane tickets weren't so expensive. We'd be out there quite a bit more, but
yeah, the drive sucks.
24 hours. We were going to drive out for that hunt, and since our trip kind of collapsed and I'm actually going out solo, so I'm going to end up flying and try to TSA a gun out there, which will be
I was
interesting. So
just gonna say that whole process. You started to look into it because I mean that's my biggest thing. Because I don't want to say afraid, but I just don't want to deal with all the crap of doing that. I've dealt with flying like electronics equipment, like broadcast equipment across to international stuff, and that's a pain in the ass as it is. Like I just feel like firearms are even more of a pain in the butt and everything you got to deal with.
I just hope all my penmanship is correct and all the serial numbers are right, and I didn't do something stupid. We'll figure it out. Otherwise, I'll be borrowing a gun out there. I'm not so worried about Montana. I'm worried about going through Milwaukee security. So
Oh, and the leaving. I was saying the coming on the way back, Milwaukee security is especially international travel. Here's a little secret for you: if you've ever flown international back to Milwaukee, it is the most relaxed, most chill. Like it is like, hey, how you doing? Can you eat a hot dog and go down a slide? Welcome back to the United States. Like it is the easiest TSA I have ever experienced anywhere. So if you had a chance to fly back to the US and Milwaukee can be your port to come through, do it. It's super, super easy. And now that I say that, they're all gonna buckle down and be like grumpy, TSA
I
agents.
heard this one podcast and they said
Right?
we were easy.
Actually, honestly, the best airport I flew out of anywhere is when I flew to Costa Rica. There was direct flights out of Rockford, Illinois, of all places. So we flew out of Rockford to Costa Rica. That airport, like I get there and I'm expecting like other airports because, like, again, I'm flying with a bunch of electronics. I've got like 2 laptops, bunch of cameras, all kinds of stuff. So I'm like unpacking everything and putting its like own little trays and whatever. The guy's like, "You don't need to do that. No worries. You're all good." Just like again, it was the same thing. It was like, "Oh, give me a high five. Have a safe trip," And it was like, I was like, "Sorry, man. I'm spending 17 minutes recombobulating myself to get all of my stuff packed away." I'm like, I'm just used to flying through other places where they want every single device and everything in its own tray, and they're super specific about it. That was the definitely easiest place I've ever flown out of. Then, like, the most difficult, I think, has like actually been Orlando. Oh my god, that place sucks. That is the worst airport in the entire country. If you can avoid going to Disney just for Orlando in itself, do it. Like that airport, I absolutely. My wife was like, so we took our son there for his 5th birthday, and when we're leaving and flying out, like we're getting in line, and it's a cluster, right? Everybody's saying, like, it's Orlando. Everyone's at Disney. There's a few business people, whatever. So everyone's trying to get through the line and survive essentially. But there's that one TSA guy who just really decides that like someone pissed in his Cheerios and he really wants to pass that down. Like this guy, I can't even explain it. And he said like it was some direction of like, again, electronics, like put this here or don't do this. And like I didn't do it. And then he starts yelling like, dude, you just said to do this. And he starts yelling back. And it was like he wanted to make a point that he was trying to like show like establish his dominance. And I was not gonna let it go. My wife's like, stop, we have to get home. Do not get arrested in Orlando. I'm like, no, I'm proving a point. This guy's a
Yeah,
sometimes you got to ask yourself if that hill's worth dying on. In that moment, I was like, yeah, this hill's worth dying on. This hill's worth dying on. Mainly because I watched this guy I'm going to say, he's being a dick to everybody else in line. And I was like, not going to happen with me.
yeah. He was on a little ego trip there. I'll tell you
I
what,
think so.
the easiest airport I ever flew out of was Waukesha. Waukesha County Airport. I got a chartered flight for a business trip. So we showed up and I was like already nervous, was getting ready to take my shoes and my belt off, and pilot comes up and he's like, "Oh no, you're fine. How many more guys you waiting on?" I'm like, "Oh, 3." Just let me see your driver's license. Looked at it, he goes, "All right, when everybody gets here, the flight will take off." And it was that easy.
Oh, if only airline travel were what it were like back in 1994.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And I feel like I just aged myself of things. But anyway, I want to hear more about this epic Montana trip and everything you did out west. And like you said, it was going to visit relatives and set things up. But like, what's up with this? Like this float? So you're floating for, was it salmon?
Trout.
Okay,
So like
that's what I meant.
cutthroats and
Salmon,
yeah.
trout, salmonoid species.
Yep, same thing. Yeah, so you want the whole trip or you just want that float trip?
You know what? Go the whole trip. Hell with it. I want to hear about this. I'm super like, because I only got little snippets of crap that was coming in. Like, so I know we've talked about it. Like within the OKS podcast network, we have sort of this like WhatsApp, essentially, where we can all communicate. What's funny is when I found out you were there, it was actually I was fishing at a tournament that day, and I'm out there and I was riding a struggle bus. I had myself a tournament. Like I cost myself a top 10 finish. I should have finished 8th place, but I didn't control the controllables. I made some key errors, had some things happen that are unfortunate that just sucks, but you know what? It's a part of the sport and it happens. I move on. But I was like riding that roller coaster wave of just finding out that 2 of my biggest fish got denied after I just had a giant jump off the board on me. Again, I'm going to use the word clusterfuck. It was a clusterfuck of a tournament for me. It was a disaster. So I'm trying to battle back from all of this emotionally, mentally, just staying in it, and I'm still catching fish. And like my phone's blowing up, and finally, I'm like, okay, I just got to see what the hell's going on. I kind of like glance and look because how I've got my Garmin graph set up on my kayak is one that runs like my naps and side scan and all that stuff. My text messages will come through, so I can see. But like, I don't see like a photo. So be like, Matt shared a photo. So eventually it was like, there was all these photos. I'm like, okay, I got to see what the hell's going on. So I pull up my phone and look, I'm like, the hell, Matt's out wet. Like, what is going on? I'm like, I got to hear more about this. So there's my backstory as to like how I was like, oh, this is happening. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it turned out being a good trip. It was a little bumpy in the beginning. Had a bunch of delays. We didn't get into Missoula, Montana until we flew out. We were trying to fly out by 4:00 Thursday evening. We didn't get to. I don't think our flight left till like 6:30 to Minnesota, and then there was another delay, so we didn't get out to Missoula till like 1:30 in the morning on Friday.
So what did you do? Like Milwaukee to Minneapolis to Missoula, or
Yep, because Missoula is a little tiny one. There's not enough people for a direct flight there, and then they
Right.
had 2 of the 3 runways in Minnesota were down for maintenance. Of course, so there's a ground stop for a couple hours. It just wasn't fun. We're traveling with a 6-year-old, my daughter, and yeah, every time she heard a plane boarding from all around the airport, she's like, "Oh, it's time!" She'd jump up. It's like, "No, we got another 2 hours. Just play on your tablet for a couple more minutes." And so yeah, we got in late night. And the crazy thing, I never really was out there in summery time, is it stays light until like 10:30 out there, and then it gets light at 5 in the morning. For however reason, I'm not a scientist, but all the Earth has shifted. It was bright really long, so like everything was kind of out of whack. We were eating dinner at like 9:00 at night, and then yeah. Side note, but our first day we did the typical.
I get it. It's about food. Like I understand. We talk a lot about food on this show. Like Camp OKS may as well be OKS Cook. Like we're one of the same. We're gonna talk about food.
Yeah. So our first day we did the typical touristy thing. We drove out to Hot Springs, Montana, and we went to the hot springs. They got this elaborate little pool area set up. It looks like a normal swimming pool, but they pipe in all the different temperatured spring water. So you got pools from 60 degrees all the way up to 120-ish degrees. So you buy it like a time slot. So it's 4 hours or so we bought out there. And then I did that for a while, went out to dinner. That was like end of day 1.
Was that your first time doing a hot spring thing?
Yes.
Okay, so I've done the Choctaw bathhouses in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and that was a really interesting, kind of cool experience. So, like, what did you think of it? Did you like notice like did they say like healing power of the water and like all that stuff?
So I'm the perfect guinea pig for this too. Not a lot of people know I've had 3 back surgeries. We got lower back issues. I don't show it, and I don't usually tell anybody about it. But that the springs coupled with how dry the air was out there, I had virtually no back pain while I was out there. It was incredible. Jumping from hot to cold, cold to hot, just chilling in those pools all day. I'll go back just for that, for a weekend, just to make my back feel better. But
Yeah, I think it's so cool, and it's just such a different experience. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Like most people have never experienced or never will. Yeah, I get it. It's kind of like a bunch of hot tubs and pools, but like you said, it's like cold to hot, and the fact that this is like natural water coming out of the ground. It's not like run through a heater. It's really cool.
It's got that little bit of sulfur smell to it. There's
Yes.
no chemical chlorine.
Nope.
It's great.
Straight minerally. Like it is. It came straight from the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a cool experience. Too bad it was only 4 hours, but Yeah, it was still worth the
Any
hour
more than
drive
that,
away.
you'd look like a raisin at this point anyway.
Oh, we did anyways because we never left the water except to go get cocktails. So
Hey, oh, see now when I went, there was no cocktails there. That may have changed a few things for me. I would have been a much longer session, I feel.
oh yeah, they had craft beer and their specialty, cocktail drinks there, and some of those tasted really good.
Drinking in hot water, though, I'm just saying, if anyone's ever had a couple of cocktails and been in a hot tub, you notice it hits you a lot faster.
It does, but then you switch back to beer and you're good. But no,
Oh,
that was fun. Ate at the restaurant they had up there, real good food. I'm trying to chronologically put this in order. Saturday was kind of like with my daughter's day. One of the brother-in-law's friends owns a horse farm, so we went out and she got to ride a horse for the first time with the scenic backdrop of everything Montana mountains, which is really neat.
as a guy who grew up in the Midwest, that was a part of it. Seeing like all the photos you were sharing, I was like, this is just freaking so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I chatted with Levi, like we got going, and I don't know if it was a part of the show or we chatted for like when we ended the show, like sidebar, Levi and I talked for like 45 minutes after that. So if you listened or watched the stream of it, know that when we were done, we kept going after. And basically he's like invited me to come out and do one of those pronghorn hunts and have a chance to shoot an antelope at like high altitude. And I'm like, dude, I've got a Wyoming like DNR, like I've got in their point system. I've had points, I've lost a few, but I'm gonna start collecting points again. I'm gonna take you up on that because seeing those photos, I'm like, I've got to get out west. Like it is a different world compared to this hills, I'll say it, we have in the Midwest.
Yeah, we got the Menominee Falls Hill. That's the biggest thing
Right.
we got to a mountain.
Right. A kid growing up in northern Wisconsin, like you go to Wausau and you got Rib Mountain, the highest point in the state, and you're like, that's kind of just a real big hill, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like I think it's more terrain in the southwestern corner of the state, like that driftless in and around the Mississippi River, like the Prairie du Chien, La Crosse area. That's far more like terrain. Although the most beautiful part, have you ever been to like, I hate to say Buffalo County because it sounds so stereotypical, like is in the whitetail world, but legit like Buffalo County, like Alma, Wisconsin, and stuff
I've,
like that, Fountain
we've
City.
we've been south to like Pepin County, which is right below Buffalo
Yeah,
County. Same thing.
yeah, same thing. But just those giant bluffs and the river, like that's why I love fishing up there. Like fishing in pool like 4 and 5. Just the fact that you either side you look, it's like it just doesn't
That's your
feel
view.
like yeah, it doesn't feel like you're in the Midwest and that general area and body water fishes a lot more like Florida. So again, you don't feel like you're in Wisconsin or Minnesota. It's such a weird, strange thing. If you've never fished like pools 4 and 5, so like Lake Pepin is what they refer to as pool 4.
Yep.
It is I think that's a destination. That should be a destination for everyone. It's a really fun, interesting way to fish and more so the scenery. So if you don't catch anything, doesn't matter. The scenery is freaking gorgeous. It's so cool up there.
Well, you'll always catch carp up there.
Depending on areas, yeah. Mhm.
That's
I mean,
carp capital.
if you can be patient enough and wait on the wing dams, you can do some damage. But yet, like Lake Pepin itself, and I was talking with a guy that lived so in the state of Wisconsin, a part of the club that I'm roll with and the series I fish a lot, the Badger State Kayak Championship. Our tournament. Why is the word escaping me? Tournament director. Wow, it's late at night. Jake Ruff or Jacob or whatever he wants to go by. He's from out that way. Like his family has this amazing property. So when I went up there last summer and fished, I actually stayed in his family's property, just like, truck camped and whatever, and hung with them. And it was great to spend time and like so grateful for the hospitality. Like his parents are fantastic, the whole family. It was an awesome, awesome experience. But, he's talking about, he's like, from when I was a kid to what it is now, he's like, that whole like Lake Pepin is just going to be a marsh at some point. Like it's not even going to be the Mississippi River. It's not even going to be the lake. It's just going to be 6 inches of water and muck. And I'm like, having been out there in the past and then been out there again now, man, it has already changed drastically. And I feel for it. It sucks. Like, I feel like some of the dry summers we've had, and then like you go to the wet stuff. And I feel like out west they don't experience those things as much because you've always got mountain snow that fills in, and it's constant. But here, man, it's different landscape. Sorry, I'm going down a road that's off topic, back out west. Sorry, I apologize.
I like rabbit holes, man. They're fun.
That's what I do. I've got a schnauzer, and I think because I am a schnauzer, like I'm just chasing rabbits down holes and through the. I said, like, bunny, squirrel, let's go. You know, that's what happens.
Okay, where was I? Let's see. You did the horse riding.
Is day 2, Saturday.
Yep. And day 3 was the fishing trip. We didn't have, or my brother-in-law's neighbor is a fishing guide, but he's booked for he was booked for like the next 56 days. So he travels everywhere, whatever. So we're like, oh, let's just go rent it's basically literally a inflatable boat. Kind of like the ones you take whitewater rafting.
Okay, yeah.
And we were able to put a Yeti cooler in there, had some tackle. They provide everything from life jackets to the ropes you need to the oars, everything for it's like $125 maybe. It wasn't terribly expensive. And
For how long?
As long as it took for you to get from point A to point B, and they drove you up to point A.
So, like, could you spend a night along the way, or was it like just one day?
The stretch we went through, you couldn't camp on.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. It's just camping wasn't allowed. You could pull off to the side, but you couldn't camp.
Like, if it's $125 and there's like a camp option, like that is stupid affordable.
Oh, very affordable. So we drove what felt like 25 minutes up a mountain. It was probably only 10 miles because you're going on this like windy trail. We got to some point. Oh yeah,
all the way up.
We got to some points where I looked down and I'm like, that's 300 foot down. I'm like, how are we fishing this? Like, there are gonna be some giant rapids we're gonna have to go through. And I said, I don't know if I'm ready for that, but made it all the way up. It's a little boat launch up. I don't know exactly how far it was, like traveling, but I mentioned it on our podcast before. When we get a lot of rain or the rivers get high, we just say, oh yeah, the river's up about a foot, right? That's how we equate it. You know, everything's in CFM up there. It's like, oh, you know, ever since that little rain and last melt off we had, it's like 2000 CFM faster than normal. And we're like, I was just like, cool, you know, like,
great. I don't know what this means.
This doesn't make sense to me, but yeah, sure.
What does it mean?
But my brother does that float, or brother-in-law does that float quite a bit, and he goes, it was probably 8 to 12 inches higher than normal, which is bringing it down to how I understand it. So that float usually takes 4 to 5 hours. We did it in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, that water was cruising.
She was cruising. So it made fishing very difficult.
Yeah.
The nice thing was it was like 90 every day there. So the water, which was probably 50 some degrees, felt great.
Oh yeah.
It felt so good. And then of course they were saying when we took off, they're like, oh, you got to watch out for so-and-so. They had names for all these big boulders. I didn't know what it meant. The first 200 feet of our trip, we went through class 1 rapids. And I'm like, I was in the front of the boat trying to figure out, we were trying to do a little casting beforehand. And then I was like, should we put our life jackets on? Because it was ripping. I'd never done rapids before. And Jake's like, no, we'll be fine. And then he sees it and he goes, we should probably put some life jackets on. So we while we're like 20 feet away, we're trying to quick zip our life jackets on. They stayed on the rest of the time. But go over that first set of rapids, another 40, 50 foot, another set of rapids. And then those are the biggest ones. Got them out of the way right away. And it slowed down enough where we could cast. It's different. You're throwing an ultralight and like number 2 and number 4 Panther Martins, tiny little spinners.
Yep.
And trying to catch, like when you think of catching trout, I'm thinking of Great Lakes trout, you know, the 10, 12 pounders. We were excited when we got a 9-inch brook trout or, you know, a 10-inch rainbow. And for what we caught was a great day of fishing because of how fast the water was going.
Just the opportunity to encounter fish when you're moving that fast is tough.
Dude, it was funny. We actually ended up trolling.
Yeah,
we were going just fast enough where the blades were spinning. We had to throw number 4s so they sunk down a little bit farther, and we caught all but one of our fish trolling, like just keeping up with current. You know, if we keeping our rod tip going a little bit. We did catch one in a pool. We ended up going into just a little side area by a little rapids and cast into the rapids. But it was a cool. You can't get that around here. It was just a cool little experience. The scenery, I took pictures. I could throw them all away. The pictures don't do it justice. just how beautiful it is up there.
That's how I feel about a lot of things. And as someone that films fishing and whatever to document and share it, and more so, my filming and documenting it's not about me. It's just like I think I've explained this here. Is my thought is always I love to know why people do things. Like if I'm gonna watch someone hunting, fishing, whatever. Like I want to know like why they made this decision. Why'd you do this? Even if it's the wrong decision, just like why? Like I feel like that can help anyone. And that's why I started doing it was that I can document through and I can explain why I did things and be like, yeah, I did this because I thought this. I was wrong, but that's why I did it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like even when I look back on things and you see, especially like you said, scenery, look at it, it's like, that doesn't do justice how freaking cool that was. Like, a
No.
big experience I bring up all the time is all of the years that I spent up in Canada when I would, like, host guide and do all the stuff up on Lake of the Woods. And some of the stuff that you encounter and the fact that there's islands there that have and I know I get and Levi and I talked about this, and I showed the pictures of Painted Rock on this very show. So if you're watching the YouTube stream, you can go back and watch that, and you can see the pictures of what I call Painted Rock. It's legitimately stuff that natives had painted with sturgeon bone marrow on the side of a like cliff face, and it has been there for thousands of years. And there's so many places there that have not seen a single human. Like that's unheard of in the States and unheard, especially where we are in the Midwest. And there's no picture that I've ever taken or video I've ever taken while up there that does justice to truly how freaking gorgeous it is. You mentioned like the light, same thing. Like I used to do opening weekend, so it would be like the third week in May was opening weekend there.
Mhm.
It's Western Ontario, and it would be sunny and light until 10 o'clock at night, and it would be light at 5 o'clock in the morning, like
It's
4:30, 5 o'clock. It's light.
it's just crazy.
Yeah, like because we would do dinner at like 6 back on the island. And then afterwards, like, you do whatever. There'd be sometimes they're like, "Well, I'm gonna go for an evening trip." And I'd grab a boat, and I'd just head on out right away. And, like, that's 7 o'clock. You still got 3 hours from 7 to 10 to, like, still fish before it's dark. Like, it's insane. Like, in May, and you're in the Midwest, it's, like, 7:30, and you barely still have light.
Yeah.
Like, you're not that far north, but yeah, you are. So, like, that's really I get what you're saying with, like, that whole Montana thing, and even whether it's I think more altitude based at that point than even geographical based.
And I always how my brother-in-law explained it is like everything goes in a circle, but when it gets to different months, the Earth tips a little bit, and
Yeah,
Montana comes just a little bit farther. You know how I don't know how it works or south. I'm not sure, but I couldn't believe it. And then you have so much more energy. You feel like you get so much more done because the light's still out. It's crazy.
light does that, and that's where I think that whole seasonal depression, the SAD or seasonal affective disorder or whatever they call it, comes in. Like
I just think of The Office when you say that. So
Like, it gets to be so, man, gloomy in winter, and you're just like, "Oh," but then summertime, you're always far more energetic. I think there's legitimately something to it. I think daylight or sunshine or sunlight in itself is an energizing force.
I would 100% agree with that. I don't feel like going to bed at 5 o'clock when it gets dark out, or it's still light out in the summer, but 5 o'clock at night in the winter, yeah, I could probably take a nap.
Yeah, which is hard with a child. So, like, my 6-year-old, he's like somewhere between 7 and 8 is, like, bedtime, but in summertime, that's tough to be like, "Hey, bud, it's bedtime at 7:30." He's like, "No, but it's still light out." You're like, "But it's bedtime. It's gonna be dark very soon." You know what I mean? Because like, it legit is still sunny, and there's kids outside screaming in the neighborhood, and you're like, "No, it is bedtime." But it is bedtime.
It's a lot easier in the winter, though. "Dad,
Right.
Dad, I'm tired. It's 4:30." "Nope, you gotta stay awake for another 2 hours."
I wish my son would say he's tired at 4:30. Wish he'd say he was tired ever. That kid is the Energizer Bunny, man. He just go and go and go and go and go and love him dearly. We all love our kids, right?
Yep.
They're the greatest. So, well, anyway, anything else fun happened on this trip out west?
I will say we did keep 2 fish. I didn't cover that. we kept
Yeah, way to bury the lead, Matt. Come on. Let's stick to the good stuff, man.
we kind of just let the trout go. Brother-in-law wasn't interested in keeping any of them, but he told me if we caught some mountain whitefish, we were keeping them. And we
Okay.
kept 2 mountain whitefish, one 10-incher, one 12-incher, and man, did those cook up good. We had those Monday, so the day after. Oh, just seasoned them down, threw them on the smoker, just ate them on crackers, man. It was
Okay, mountain whitefish. Where does that rank amongst whitefish in the Great Lakes? Like you think of like whitefish in big clear water. Again, me growing up in Green Bay, we fish whitefish and did it forever. Like it's commercially fished. I mean, I was out ice fishing, catching them, filling limits like in an hour before it is what it is now, where it's a giant tourist thing. Essentially, is what it's become up in the Door Peninsula, where a lot of that takes place in Wisconsin.
I'm
Where does
not
it
a
rank
I'm not a
amongst?
tourist. I got to cut you off. I'm not a tourist, but I do love white fishing. Like it's something about jigging up those fish in 90, 100 foot of water, and just they fight like crazy the whole way.
Oh, I'm going to stop you right there. You do not need to be in 90 to 100 feet of water.
Well,
Mm-mm,
you don't. Where
mm-mm.
we go to the deep reefs near the shipping channels. That's where.
So a lot of how we used to do it back before it is what it is now. And I'm going to spill a little secret here. So you're here at camp. You're safe. This is a little secret. We legit would fish those things in like 10 foot of water. Okay. So what you got to do is you got to find, and this could anywhere from like legitimately the mouth of the Fox River in Green Bay all the way north on the bay side. What you want to do is you got to find an area where it's like sand or like, pebbles and stuff around, but there's a couple of big boulders. So you got to find and be near those big boulders. Find those areas. And then just like legitimately, we would drill 2 holes. So you'd have one hole in front of you and another behind it, right? So, the 2 holes are stacked.
Mhm.
So you'd put your rod in the farthest hole and you'd look straight down the other hole. It's like straight sight fishing. All right. So you're watching me and work it. We would do a Gens worm in the bottom with 2 waxies. And then up above it would be one small, like itty bitty tiny little hook, or even like a very small fly. Sometimes not even with a wax worm, just bare hook. Like they would legit just go for that. And that's how we'd catch him. Most of the time was on that little slider, that little hook that just sat farther up on the line. Um, it's insane. Like we would get to the point where we like 3 or 4 of us would go out. We'd set cameras. One would face out one way, one would face out the other way on both of our ends of the shack that we'd sit in. So we could legit see and be like, okay, so there's one coming in this way. It's coming to like we, obviously like, oh, it's coming this way. So you're communicating about things. But we'd have one blank hole too. This is secret stuff here. We'd have your depth finders, they called it, the big giant weight. Essentially, you clip onto a line for setting tip ups and stuff.
Mhm.
We'd have then a 1 jig pole, like in the middle of the shack. If be dead or something going on, grab that and just jig it a few times and get that silt and that sand to puff up off the bottom. That's the call. They all come flying in. So like there's nothing going on for about 10 minutes. You fluff that weight and get that silt going up. Instantly, they're all over the place. Hooking them, done.
And
Like,
you can get lucky and catch perch and walleye in that shallow too.
hell yeah, we've done that too.
Yep. That's the
But
nice part about fishing shallow like that. When we're fishing deep, we don't catch anything. Well, you catch a burbot every once in a while,
which
but
are delicious. Like
they are. They
burbot
are.
is one of the. We used to catch those a ton as a kid, like perch fishing. The
Mhm.
Bay of Green Bay is how I, did a lot of that ice fishing as a kid, which I figured out later in life I was just extra limit for my old man. Um, but it was still
That's
fun.
fine.
I've got a lot of great memories of it. We'd go out and fill friggin' 5-gallon buckets full of perch, which you'll never ever do ever again. And you know what? Should we have been doing that then? Probably not. As I
Hindsight's
look
always
back,
20/20, man.
yeah, like I look back, I'm like, man, now smelt. I remember like smelting. We'd go out in the tributaries and little streams, and again, we would fill just 5-gallon buckets full, spend 3 hours at the kitchen table afterwards with scissors, just snip the head, snip the belly, snip the head, snip the belly. Like, oh God, there's so much of my childhood that I remember doing that. But you know what? It's fun memories now of doing that. Like I never thought of it as a chore, never wanted to. It's just a part of what you did. And now I look back and like, damn, I miss doing that. We don't have that opportunity anymore. But like I would love to spend 4 hours around a table after going out smelting, just cutting smelt heads and doing that, like, because the conversations you had and all that, like, it's
They are starting to come back though. We did catch not a full bucket full, but out of port we caught some this year.
yeah. So you're in Port Washington, Wisconsin.
Yep. Yeah, as
Interesting.
the crow flies, I'm like a mile away from the marina.
I wouldn't even say it's a mile. I feel like I could spit on the marina from your house. I've been there. It was like, oh, we're gonna meet at Matt's house. To get there, and we load up in Greg's truck and we drive down. I'm like, I could have walked here. We had to drive. You were so close to that.
Yep. I love it. It's going to be hard for me to move anywhere that doesn't have no neighbors to my east. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to make a trip up to Port and do some fishing at some point here this year. So, I haven't said anything about it, and I haven't really put it out there on socials. I think, well, because I sent you a picture earlier today of things. So randomly, I bought a new kayak. I was thinking about it after this season that I was maybe going to make a change, and there's some. Basically, it comes down to I was starting to feel limited with the boat that I have, and I wanted to be more open to more changes and more stuff I can do. I'm a big tinkerer, and anyone that kayak fishes, I think anyone that fishes or does anything outdoors, we're never finished or complete with things. We're always tinkering and always changing and whatever. And so I really fell in love with the New Canoe Unlimited. Now, like, legitimately, you're unlimited to what you can do with this thing. And I was like, I'm kind of starting to look around. Maybe after the season, like, I was going to fish through the rest of my season with my Lightning Strike and whatever. And randomly, another guy I know told me that one of the local kayak dealers here was going out. Northwoods Marine out of Pewaukee. So the biggest part of their business, and I feel terrible that I can't think of the name of it, but they make a bunch of these rod holders for like bigger boats, or for like catfishing is like a big thing. These like metal rod holders, and then these little like portable cleats that go into like tracks on kayaks and boats. They have got so much business making these rod holders and these cleats that they can't keep up. And having this like kayak based like actual retail business doesn't do them any justice and is pretty much useless to them. So they're completely like getting out of it. Like, if you're a Southeast Wisconsin, you want to be a Hobie dealer, boom, you got your shot. They will sell you the Hobie dealer. Like, it is all yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy's like, oh, maybe you should check over there and check it out. Because he was like, they got them in clearance. I went over there and I picked up a bunch of Hobie accessories. I got like $350 worth of stuff for like $175. It was like a screaming deal. He goes, it's like $1,000 off a couple of their Hobie boats. And I'm like, another new canoe dealer. I'm like, interesting. He's like, just go check it out. Pop over, just, see. And I thought, you know what? It's worth like a look to go check it out. They're a big sponsor of like our state tournament and all that stuff. So, he's like to support people that help you out as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I pop over there, and I can't begin to tell you how just like stupid it all came together. The fact that there was that, and he's like, oh, we can do this price. And we agreed actually to a lesser price, which was right in the ballpark of, I'm like, if I can get like this price, I will probably buy a boat today. I don't want to. I'm already like starting to stretch my budget for the season. But I'm like, you know what? I'll dip in next year because I plan to do this next year anyway. So buy now, save later, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not so certain it is that at this point now, after I'm in what I'm in right now. But they had the exact boat in the exact color. Like, and it was the last one and the only thing. And I'm like, I got to do it. And he got in range where I wanted, pulled the trigger, did it. It's, like my other boat was pedal drive. So like I had no motor. I was just all on me. This is none of that. It's straight motor. So I've got literally today I mounted up the Minn Kota on it with the GPS spot lock and all that. And where I bring up going to port is I started thinking about the other day. I was like, now I have that, I can go troll salmon.
Mm-hmm.
Because what kept me from doing it in my Lightning, like I could, well, first off, like when I would go and like troll for them was always during bow season. Like, so I'd rather be bow hunting than pedaling my ass off to catch salmon. But now that I have a trolling mode, I go boop, 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 and hit a button and it can just roll, and I can put 2 rods in rod holders and go troll some cranks. I'm like, yep, I feel like I found something new to do in the fall now. Shit, there goes because I love bass fishing into October. And that's always been a struggle for me. It's like do I bass fish or do I bow hunt? Like my tournament season's over by October, but I still have to catch fish, and there's some really damn good fishing in October, which I know you know, Matt, and I mean I'm sure muskie in that. Like
Muskies.
it just starts getting good.
Yep, that's when they put the feed bags on, man.
It's such a fun time to fish, and it's hard to pry away. And now I'm gonna add another like little tempting thing there, and I'm like, pork could be kind of fun. Like having seen that marina and that's a legit good place. I know a lot of people go out of like was it McKinley Marina Milwaukee and like the South Shore Yacht Club Milwaukee. I don't know if I want to deal with that. Like, I'm not afraid of big water, and the boat that I have is more than capable of big water, which is part of the reason I got that boat. I intend to fish lots of big water. It's what I do. It's what I'm doing this weekend in a tournament is fishing big water, which I'm still on the fence whether I'm fishing one more for Old Blue or I'm gonna like just FAFO and roll the new one out. Like, smart me says do not fish a very big tournament in a brand new boat,
Untested.
untested. And you don't because I'm so good and my system down. Like I fish efficiently in what I've done because I've been doing it for 4 years now, and now I'm gonna do something new. But there's a part of me is like, full send, just let's go. And if there's a place I'm gonna do it, this tournament's all of Door County. How many times I mentioned that's my home body of water. I know it. I'm so comfortable up there. I feel like if I'm gonna roll the dice and it's gonna happen, this is the one scenario where I can do it. So we'll see how it goes. I got a little more rigging to do tomorrow, and then I think little guy and I are gonna go out and do a little test run, just go on a boat ride and play around, and we'll see how that goes and how I feel with that, and that'll be the deciding factor of what boat gets thrown in the back of the truck and what boat's going up the Door County with me.
Yep, that's probably a good plan. You don't want to go into a brand new tournament with a brand new boat dry. Like
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna go a little test drive. We're gonna go play around and just see what's up. But yeah, that's the plan of what I got going for. What do you got coming up for stuff for you since you got back now? I know life is busy. Turkey season's over for you.
Turkey season's done. It's one of those. This year was. I hate to see it go, but I loved when it left. It was jam packed. A lot of hunting. A lot of we had weddings. I stood up in a wedding. I had so many other things going on. We did the learn to hunt turkey with
Yeah, you and
back.
Greg did that together,
Yep,
right?
yep, with backcountry hunters and anglers. So that took up some time. That was 2 weekends there, and I loved it, but it was a very crammed. The Montana trip was the end of my long spring. Now it's kind of just starting to train for going out west again. So that's the only big plans I have is do hiking, rucking every day, every other day, depending on how I feel.
How do you get ready for that? Like, what's your regimen to get into shape for doing that sort of thing?
You can't ever prepare for altitude. The only thing, my biggest tip is you can prepare how your cool down time is. Like you can get a lower cool down time. When you're panting for breath in the mountains, if you didn't train at all, you're going to pant for 30 minutes. It sucks. It happens. I did the first time I went out west. This time I am getting in the best shape I can. I don't run. I mean, I can. I just don't prefer it. I do start out first month is 25 pounds in my backpack or my hunting or hiking pack. And Port Washington's great. Look at all the hills we got here.
Right.
I got a 3-mile circuit I go. It's got some big steep inclines and declines. And I'll do that the first month. Try to do 3-mile hikes. I'll try to do like 12 to 15 miles a week. And I like to embrace the suck. I went for a hike right after work today. It was 94 degrees here. It's just you feel like you're getting so much more accomplished. I hate the heat.
No,
But
it was like I am a person that like I hate the sun. I'm covered up. Like I never go shirtless. I was outside today in the backyard doing that rigging stuff, shirtless, just sweating.
oh yeah,
Just like I'm not even physically exerting myself. I'm doing some electronic wiring and drilling a few holes essentially, and I was just straight dripping. These are the days where I'm grateful to have a pool at my house. So I was like, hey, I'm like jump into the pool. I'm like, okay, we're good. We can go back to it a little bit. Like, oh man.
yeah. Today was the day you sweat just leaving your air conditioned house. Like
Yeah.
no physical exertion. But no, that's what I do, and then I kind of add 10 pounds every month or so until hand. Hardest part for me is because we're from Wisconsin. We like drinking beer here. is a month before I stop drinking altogether. That'll help me cut that little bit extra weight. I don't care so much about a number, but the less weight you have on your body is the less weight you got to carry up in the mountains.
It's true.
So,
Do you do any focus on like balance, stability, like ankle strength, anything like that?
not in the first month. The second and third month, I'll do a lot more like hiking glacier trails, where you almost want to get those little micro fractures in your feet to stabilize everything. And I don't train with my boots until then, so I'm
Okay.
walking just in tennis shoes right now. Then I got to get a new pair of boots because we're going out a little later, so it takes probably a month and a half to break in boots. So be getting those, and then I'll start walking some uneven terrain. Even if I do my walks around here, I just won't be on a path. I'll walk in the gravel.
Okay.
Just a little bit of unevenness, just to strengthen up those weird little ankle muscles that you never ever think about or work them out in a gym, stuff like that.
That's something I feel that a lot of people, and I've brought this up, and that's where like I legit am I'm trying to put like the full routine together. I want to do like a workshop of like functional fitness for the outdoors. Is what I want to do to kind of get people ready for fall. And it's exactly that. Like those little aches, those pains, the things that you notice, you can avoid them by doing certain work and working certain things into your, we'll call it workout regimen, even if it's just like going for a walk. Like there's different things you can do to help that. And balance and stability is one of those things I think we as people in general forget about and don't think about. And it's such a key thing. So that's all. I'm glad that you're doing that because you're on the right foot.
Hmm.
Because that's the thing, like, you can walk on, like, flat whatever, and you can do weight, and you can incline, whatever, but you can't account for rolling an ankle
Yep.
or, the bits of nimbleness that you need to, like, walk over logs, and, like, that's the stuff you're gonna actually encounter when you're
Yep.
out in the woods, and people don't, think about that. They think, "Oh, I can just walk on an incline on a treadmill," and it's like, that is nowhere near the same thing.
You still need that though. That's why like the first month or so when I do it, it's training, no surprises. Just walking straight, getting your inclines, your declines, getting your weight, getting your shoulders acclimated, carrying weight around again, and then you introduce the next step, and then
Yeah.
the next step, and then the next step. And if you buy new boots, break them in. Otherwise, you're going to be Mr. Blister with 400 blisters all over your feet, look like hamburger. I've seen that before on a hunting trip. So I just got these new
Yeah.
boots, guys. They're gonna be great. It's like, did you wear them yet? No. It's like, oh, I'm not hunting with you.
You're gonna complain the whole way up, you're gonna complain the whole way down.
Now you're gonna take 2 days off because you're gonna need about 2 pounds of liquid skin. So
Oh, there's nothing worse than a blister on your feet. Like,
yeah.
a paper cut, maybe? Speaking of that paper cut, I legit I don't even see it.
Did you
I
just get a
legit
paper cut?
no, on my trolling motor, I legit cut myself. I bumped into the blade on the trolling motor and legit, like, paper cut my finger. It was bleeding like hell, and I was like, "That's the weirdest damn thing." Like, I just bumped my finger into the trolling motor blade. That's never happened to me before.
That'll
And
chop up some weeds then for you.
that's my first thought, and, like, because I was doing, like, "Oh, do I switch?" So, I've got the, Motor Guide XI3 kayak, so it's a shorter shaft because I don't wanna
Mhm,
buy one and cut the shaft down and all that crap. But it's got the GPS spot lock and all that stuff. But a lot of people switch out. They've got the 2-blade prop, the katana, that's
mhm.
supposed to, like, chop weeds better and this and that versus the 3-blade. I did that, I was like, "Exactly what you said." I'm like, "I ain't gotta worry about that." This
I'm
thing,
good.
like, sliced my finger and I bumped into it. I'm like, "This thing's gonna shred some weeds." Also, a lot of places I intend to fish, I'm not really so worried about a lot of weeds. It's just boat control at that point. So,
Yeah.
well,
No, I was just gonna say it's one of those things too. You gotta try it out. You know, I never understood when people buy something, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, this one guy online said that's a terrible something, so I'm gonna swap it out before I even try it. It's like, no, how
well,
about you
because
try it and get your own thought process on it? And
everybody online's an expert, and
they
what you see
are.
online's the best. Like, I don't know why you bother fishing unless you're fishing with a $600 rod and reel combo. Like, don't even bother going out. Why would you fish unless you can fish? Like, no, hell with that. Like, that $20 combo you can pick up at a yard sale. Hell with it. Get out. If that's what you got, go fish with it. Do it.
Mhm.
That
Gri
old bow that you had handed down and figured out a way to like get it strung up and to fit you. Hell yeah, go hunt with it.
Mhm. Yep. You gotta try it yourself. You have to come to your own conclusions sometimes.
which is such a catch-22 in the world of, and I hate using the freaking word influencer. It sounds so douchey. But like, let's be real. Like when you do things in the outdoor space, whether it's podcast or, like me with YouTube channel, all this and that, like there's opportunity to work with companies. And I have a hard time like selling something. First off, I said it before, I only work with companies that I believe in, products that I was a customer of first, all that. But like you look at it and some of these people and some of the stuff out there, it's like, I get that you're saying like, oh, this is the greatest reel or the greatest rod or the greatest gun or the greatest bow or the greatest this, the greatest that. You have to have this. But do you really? And like, there's that weird struggle of like, I've always been the like, just roll with it person, just do what you have. Again, I just talk about buying a brand new boat. I mean, do you need no, like shit. Do I need to buy that boat? No. Did I need, like this year I added live scope. Did I need that? No. So like, it's all an evolution and I'm in a different step and moving in a different step of adding these things. But I did so many things before that without these tools that I'm like, okay, like I've got a system that works great. Well, maybe let's try adding this now and see how it works in. And that's where I say anything in the outdoors. It's like, just get out and start and then you can slowly add to it.
It's almost like you got to earn your keep. Like, oh, I got to try it as, my dad did back in the day.
Right. Like
Okay, I got it.
you're gonna struggle. You're gonna suck and not be as successful. But then you got to ask yourself, like, what does success mean? What is success to you?
To me, success is learning. Like, be a musky fisherman. You think you got those things figured out? No way, sir. You can't. They
Fish at
change day to
10,000
day.
casts, right? Fish at 10,000 casts.
Unless you're Vince on Friday, he caught one of the first 10 casts. So
Shit, you not. I watched my brother catch his first 2 muskies back-to-back casts.
yeah, yep.
Both over 42 and 46. Back-to-back casts. Shit, you not.
Oh, that's okay. I earned his keep because it was like 20,000 casts before I got my first one. So I paid it forward.
What is your biggest muskie, by the way, Matt?
Not big, 43-ish, something in that
Whoa.
range. Yeah.
I never would have thought I was 48's mine.
No,
I would have thought you smoked me in that.
no. I've put people on 48s and 50s. I've never caught one
Yeah,
myself. But
I've yet to crack the 50 and 48. It's like pike. 38's my biggest pike. I'm yet to crack 40.
see,
I've always told myself like 40 is my like pinnacle. I want a 40-inch pike. Freaking 38 is still the biggest I've ever had.
those I'd catch 40s no problem. Like it's
I'll
because
trade you.
that's because I'm musky fishing. That's why I'm catching
I'll
pike.
trade you.
No, it's what people don't understand about musky fishing though, man. It's a team. It's a team. Like Vince, in theory, caught that fish, but the boat caught the fish. So like when people say, "How'd you do musky fishing?" I'm like, "Oh, the boat got 3." Doesn't matter who caught them because it's a 2-man job when you got 2 men on the boat.
It's like duck hunting. Duck hunting is the same way. It's a team thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could be the one guy. For legal purposes, you would never gang hunt and you would never be the person that actually shoots over your limit or shoots someone else's limit. No one would ever do that. That's not a legitimate real thing.
No party hunting.
No party hunting. No one would ever do that. But hypothetically, it could happen where if you're with a group of people and one person's kind of the hot gun, everybody's shooting at the same time. You don't know who actually hit this bird or that bird. It could happen. That's all I'm just going to say out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a team effort.
Yep.
Everybody's got to be equally as quiet and call as good and all those things. So it's a team effort. I get that about musky fishing.
Yep. It's
And I feel like
it's one of those things like when you talk to people who've never musky fished before, they're like, "Oh, you guys didn't even catch a fish?" No, we moved 3. We figured something out. We're ready for the next time. Like it doesn't click in some people's heads, but that's why I love bow hunting so much. It's exactly like bow hunting, trying to get on that big buck.
there's a link. There's a link, and I've said this before. There's a link between musky fishing and bow hunting. And the people that are huge musky fishermen are like the most diehard crazy bow hunters, and vice versa. There's a link between them, and I've tasted a bit of a few. Again, to bring up Canada, I remember was it the last time? I brought my brother up there with me twice to come hang while I was fishing and, take people out and whatnot. And we had found this one little bay that there was this, it was over 50, just freaking monster. She was hanging in there. That was like, she was the queen. It was her thing. She was just laying in there. And we got in there one day and we found her and she followed me twice. She followed him once. We're like, okay, we got three follows.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back there. So we go back the next day, again, like later in the day. We can find her getting one follow. Like, okay, she still won't take it. She won't, like, what the hell? You know what? Tomorrow morning, let's go straight there. And this, yes, it was the last time, because I remember this specifically. This is what was crazy about us. So, obviously you go up there, you can only bring so many fish back.
Mm-hmm.
We basically, to like fill our limit of what we could bring back, we just had to catch like 2 walleyes a piece. We're like, walleyes, easy, whatever, not worried about that. We're like, okay, ditch it all. Let's go musky fishing. Let's go do something out. Like, let's go off the wall. We're going musky fishing. And me, like, I go up there to smallmouth fish. Like, walleyes it's a bycatch when I'm smallmouth fishing, essentially.
Yeah.
So we're out there fishing all day, catching smallmouth, catching, pike. Still couldn't get the muskies to go, which, by the way, with the morning, never saw her. Like, that was those afternoons. That was apparently her time. This is the funny part. We get to literally 20 minutes left that we got to get back to the dock on the island and meet up with everyone. We still need 2 walleyes to finish it out. 20 minutes left. It's like, okay, we can do it. Let's do it. We legitimately found a giant hump. Like, just, we could just about see the turn into like the harbor to go into the island where we were at. And we were determined also, this is the other part where it's stubborn-headedness, where the 2 that we were keeping were 17. They're between 17 and 17 and a half, and that was it. We legit rolled up on this hump with 20 minutes left before we meet everyone. We're the last boat still out there. Plunk, 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 like 14, 16, 19, 17. Cooler it. And it was like just racing to the buzzer. We did it. We caught our 2. Hauled it back in. Like, it was just perfect. It was one of those where, like, you feel good at the end of the day of you roll the dice on it, you're like, meh, and it works out. When does it ever actually work out? Whenever you're fishing or hunting, it never does.
No, we call those unicorns.
Yeah. And it was a hell of a time. That was a very fun day. Probably one of the most fun days I'd ever had up there fishing, was just because of that. Like, went to the day of like, we just got to catch two walleyes to bring home. Don't care about anything else. Like, let's just go have fun. Let's free fish, have some fun up here. Yeah, I got to get back up there. The more I talk about it, I'm starting to miss it. It's a cool, unique, fun experience. If you've never been and fished Ontario in Lake of the Woods or any of the small little lakes in and around Ontario, it's a really cool, fun experience. I don't care where you live.
Fishing. It's not even fishing up there. It's catching up there. I've been to Canada once, and it's where we went. It's if you didn't catch 30 smallmouth, didn't matter what size they were, you weren't trying that.
Yeah, depending where. So like when we go up there too, like smallmouth to me, I'm fishing for 20 inchers. That's it. Like a 20 incher on Lake of the Woods is a giant.
Mm-hmm. That's a giant anywhere.
You'll catch 18s all day long, but just to get to that 20, like it's so hard to hit that next pinnacle.
Yep. And you got to fight through a lot of little ones to get that 20 because
14, 16, 16, 14, 14, 17. Oh, 19 and 3/4. Oh, so close.
And then an 11.
Right. Oh, shit. We could talk on forever. I don't want to take you up too. It's, getting later at night. I got to get up early, and I'm a shit show before this tournament this weekend, as we've talked about with the new boat situation and just, rain completely washing out my pre-fishing. Oh my God. I'm so freaking tired of rain.
Same.
This is ridiculous.
Same.
I will trade rain to what we talked about earlier today, just sitting outside sweating by just being present. I will sweat being present over having rain at this point. I'm just done with it. And like, I need to mow my lawn, and I can't even mow my lawn because it's so freaking wet.
Yep.
Like, I'm waiting for the city to show up and put a tag on my door of like, oh, we're going to fine you if you don't mow your lawn. It's like, well, can you talk to Mother Nature to like stop pissing on the yard so I can actually mow it? Good Lord. Oh, well, thanks anyway, Matt. I appreciate you jumping in. It's
Yeah,
always good chatting. Always good getting together. We'll have to talk Greg into finally finishing that boat and getting back out on Lake Michigan at some point here sometime soon.
he's almost done. I think he's just down to carpet left. So
I know it's been a process. I've told him all along. I'm like, Greg, let me know. I'll come out. I'll help you out. I'll help you out. But we know Greg. He's
he
the
likes
most
he likes
most
doing stuff himself. Yep.
yep. And he is just the most nice, humble person that yep.
Oh, Greg.
That's Greg. Anyway, so you can hear more from Tubbs and Matt, OK's Fisher podcast. Again, you want to get more detail into the trip out west fishing. I'm sure Matt went full into detail. I've not listened to that episode yet because my phone sucks at plugging into my thing in my truck, and that's the only place that I can listen to podcasts. So I plan this weekend to get a lot of podcast time in my 6 hours driving on the road, and then the entire Friday evening I plan to spend in my truck because it's going to be freaking pouring rain and thunderstorming while I'm camping at one of the most beautiful state parks in the state of Wisconsin. I can't even enjoy it. It's just going to be raining and shitty, but
Yeah.
welcome to tournament life.
Oh yeah, and I think we had Adam Kaufman on a couple of weeks ago. He gave us some smally tips for up there. So if you need a couple extra tips, I think you're pretty good. But
It's going to be different. It's going to be different this time around. I know, like, it was on this show we talked. So Rez and I, my buddy John Resnick, him and I fished together up there a couple weeks ago in his bass boat. And that was all pre-spawn. We were up there pre-spawning just to catch a 7-pounder, and we didn't catch a 7. We talked about here. We caught a lot of big fish, and by a lot, I only mean the only fish we caught were big fish. Like it wasn't the typical 30 to 40 fish days. It was the 4 to 10 fish days, but those 4 to 10 were legit quality fish that we were catching up there. And that was all pre-spawn. And this tournament coming to this weekend is going to be like straight full post spawn, full roamers, totally different game, totally different world. And I know a lot of people that have fished tournaments up there via kayak tournaments in the past. They've all been around the spawn.
mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these guys, unless they've just like fished up there, have never experienced fishing like this, which is, I don't want to say I feel an advantage I have, but it's an advantage I feel I have because I've fished it all my life and know what this is like.
it's
So
going to be feast or famine.
that's just it. And that's, I told one guy like straight up, I was like, you're either going to get on them or you're not. And the person that wins is essentially just going to get on the right spot, get on a school of big ones. They're going to catch 5 big ones, and that's going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or you could legit just hang and sit on one spot, get on a school. You're going to whack 3, 4 of them out of there. They're going to disappear. You're going to think they're gone. You can legit just hang out there for another 2 hours. They're going to come right back through, smack. That's just what it is. So like, it's totally luck of the draw. You just like sit in one spot, hang out, and hope it happens, or do you keep looking around trying to find them? That's roamers. It's going to be a different game. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think largemouth are going to play too.
I could see that happening.
Which, if my scenarios work out the way I want it to, I'm gonna go sack up some smallies real quick, and then I'm gonna go to a spot I know that I'm just gonna like. I shouldn't give away the secret, but I'm gonna lock a frog in my hand, and I'm just gonna fricking go to town. One of those big ass largies that roam in there that people don't ever think of catching up there, but they exist.
They're there.
And that's gonna be that one kicker, that one thing that puts it over, because those 22-inch smallmouth, while they're there, you're not going to fill a 5-fish limit of 20-inch smallmouth this time of year.
But you could on largemouth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully no one that fishes against me or is planning to fish the Badger State Kayak Championship Midsummer Open this weekend is hearing this. Don't change your plans. Just do whatever you were going to do.
They're all out deep. Trust me.
Yeah.
They're all
out deep. Very 45 feet of water. They're still trying to figure out where they're going. It's pre-spawn still.
And the biggest spoon you own, jig it up and down out there.
Oh, good shit, Matt. Hey, appreciate it. We'll chat again soon. You want to check out Matt again, OK's Fisher Podcast. How can they follow you on socials, Matt?
OK's Fisher Podcast. I got Weathered Oaks Game Calls, and my personal one is Streim Outdoors. I get to most of them. I'm not a big social media guy, but I am on there. I do post every once in a while, and people reach out. I always answer them back. So
Yeah, we barely even we didn't even touch on the turkey call stuff. Like, you make some freaking amazing pot calls.
Thank you. I
That
appreciate that.
are just awesome, really truly handcrafted pieces of work. And I remember we were talking about it. We were at the icebreaker event, and just the design, how you did it. I'm like, damn, that's smart. That's really cool. Like, you make yours that are legitimately weatherproof. They're really awesome pot calls. If you're looking for a call, Weathered Oaks game calls, get your turkey call from my boy Matt. All right.
Perfect.
All right. You get to bed. I'm gonna finish my Yeti and Yeti myself to sleep too. Next week, perhaps we're eating a Yeti here on the show.